during distant learning. I hope everybody has had access to the Padlet to introduce ourselves. All right, let's see who we got in here. Okay, hi, welcome Lisa and Shannon and Henry, Libby and Susie. Oh, Henry, I love your meme right there. Totally feeling that one. Susie, long week?
Yes.
I think everybody's been having long weeks lately. Let's see, how many people do we have in here, Sophia?
There are 12 of us altogether.
12 of us. All right, so we got a couple more participating in our Padlet, and I'm gonna move on into the presentation. Okay, in case you would like a copy of the presentation, you can go into the bit.ly. Hopefully you've all seen it in the EdCamp schedule. And so this is building relationships during distance learning. As you can see, I'm a huge Backstreet Boys fan. And I was creating this presentation and it just came to me as I was creating it that I would make it a Backstreet Boys theme just because. So here I am, and you're gonna have to bear with me through it, right? And so here's my social media handle, EdTech Style. So if you give me a follow, I'd really appreciate it. I do share resources, I share tech tips on Tuesdays. And so, learn a little bit of something there. And moderating again today is Sophia Vong. Sophia, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Sophia Vong. I actually work in Torrance Unified School District, and I saw that some of you guys are also TOSAs. That's where, that's my wheelhouse as well. And I cover TK through 5, and it's all about EdTech right now. So I'm really excited to be here and to be with you. And I just started my Instagram and Twitter, but I'm hoping to share more EdTech quick tips and like on a dime type of tips. So thanks for being here.
I finally convinced Sophia to get on the PLN here. All right, so she's got a lot to share, and I bounce ideas off of Sophia every now and then. We've known each other for a long time now, for a long time. All right, so as we get into here, our agenda today, again, I have a Backstreet Boys theme. So these are all pretty much Backstreet Boys songs. The first one is Everybody. Okay, and so I thought we'd go ahead and have everybody hop onto a puzzle party. So when you launch the puzzle party, hopefully it takes you to actual puzzle party here. Uh-oh. Here we go. Right, so I actually started the puzzle last night, and let's see if we can get this solved together here. Okay, so I can move the puzzle pieces by group. I can ungroup them and move by singular piece. I can hide the preview. And I can invite people using a link. And look at that, it links into Google Classroom. All right, and you can see that all these puzzle pieces are moving in real time. And we have a multiplayer here. You can also do single player, where you don't share a link, or you want to play by yourself, or get a puzzle for a singular student even. And so that brings us to, again, everybody here. Okay. Everybody is about creating low risk opportunities for students to introduce themselves and collaborate. We know this in person in the classroom, but for whatever reason, some people think, oh, we don't need to do this online in a virtual setting or in a distance learning setting. And that's absolutely not true. Whatever we do in the classroom at the beginning of the school year translates into distance learning, or can translate into distance learning. So whatever icebreakers you originally liked to do at the beginning of the school year, bring them on into the digital learning setting. You can digitize traditional icebreakers using Padlet, which is free. I'm sure we've all known Padlet. We can use Wakelet, which Carolee, I know you're here. Carolee is a huge proponent of. And of course, Jamboard, which my district just opened up for the students this year. So I'm pretty excited about that. Conversation starters. So you can do attendance questions like having a this or that. And what I mean by that is, giving them a choice between two different things, like Coke or Pepsi. They can say their answers out loud, like during attendance, or you can, again, share those responses with their names on Padlet or Wakelet, Jamboard, any collaborative tool like that. You can even do it in slides, collaborative doc, whatever you're comfortable with. Activities to build community. We just played Puzzle Party. And so my colleague in the English department at my middle school, she used Puzzle Party to build community with her EL 1s and 2s. And she told me yesterday how they had so much fun with it, even though when they were speaking on camera, they were all speaking different languages to each other. But they had such a good time playing Puzzle Party. Pear Deck just released a blog post with some community building activities. So we have Puzzle Party, and the link in the presentation takes you to this ultimate attendance question list created by the Tony teacher. She's a teacher on Instagram, and she teaches in Boston, I believe, in the Boston area. So she has all of these questions, all of these pre-selected attendance questions that she's been using. And she just released it on a Google Doc for everybody to use for free. In addition to this, she recommends these 2 books called This or That. I actually have a book called Would You Rather? So I bought that one off Amazon for like $10, and it has like hundreds of would you rather questions that I'm honestly not creative enough to think of these on my own. And so whatever I want to do, I just beg, borrow, and steal from other teachers, and I look like the hero to my students. These are great jumping off points for starting conversations and for starting to do academic discourse or academic discussion. So with my middle schoolers, I'll give them prompts like this, and then I will give them sentence starters that are fill in the blank so that they can start learning to have academic discourse. And when we jump into historical content, because I teach history, we can have Socratic seminar or philosophical chairs where they cite evidence. So in addition to that, of course, we have Flipgrid to get to know students. It has a lot of different security features that students can, where students will be able to feel comfortable recording themselves. So they can even cover their face with an emoji the first time. I actually told my students they could do that when we did Flipgrid a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, this is our first time, so I'm okay with that this time, but eventually I'm gonna ask you to remove that emoji. So again, having things that be low risk so that students can build confidence and get comfortable. All right, and our next section is called I Want It That Way. And so this is actually what inspired me to do a Backstreet Boys theme, because every time I do a presentation, I want to give a rationale for why we should do something. And so I heard Nick Carter's voice in my head, as I do every day, say, tell me why. And the reason why is this quote: children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I'm actually a terrible teacher, and not so much, but I mean, like, I actually hate quotes. I hate quotes. I think that I don't really use inspirational quotes in my classroom to analyze or anything like that. But this one does make sense. Children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's absolutely true. I didn't start trying to build relationships or build community with my students until probably 7 years ago, and I've been teaching 14 years. So, you know, after I decided like this maybe is something I want to do, I kind of decided that I just want my kids to have fun in my class. And in the beginning of the year, I used to start with, you know, the syllabus as we traditionally do. And then I would jump right into content. Content is king. But really, it wasn't. So all of these things, motivation, behavior, all of those things improve. Motivation in academics and attendance improve. Behavior with students, there's reduced aggression, yet less behavior issues in the classroom, and less behavior issues in distance learning as well. So again, remember that, you know, just because we're behind this computer screen and just because they're behind theirs doesn't mean any of this doesn't matter anymore, and we're just giving them random things to do. Most especially since we did distance learning in the spring, things have dramatically changed. We went from asynchronous learning to where, for most of my students in that spring, the last day I saw them was March 12th, not even on the screen. And so when it just ended, it was a huge wake-up call, and it was like, I gotta get these kids in here with me. So building community and building a team-like atmosphere, building relationships with them is such a helpful thing, especially if you do care about their academics as number one. Behavior issues, I honestly have not had any behavior issues since we started distance learning this fall. I've not had students act out in the chat. I've not had students act out on camera. We're about 5 weeks in, almost 6 weeks, no, 5 weeks in, and haven't had anything, knock on wood. Parent interactions are improved. Since I started building relationships with my students, my parent interactions have been really positive, and parents are really appreciative. And remember, now that we're again behind the computer screen, we're in the students' homes. And sometimes those parents, you see them walking behind the kid and they're on camera and they are listening. They are listening. You think that they're busy doing their work, or you think that they're busy doing whatever it is that they need to do at home, and leaving their kid to learn on camera. That's absolutely not true. Parents always listen. If you are a parent, you know that you listen. And the next thing, support. Increase joy, decrease anxiety. So this isn't just for the students though, this is for the teachers. Since we started distance learning, I've actually been such a much more pleasant teacher to my students than in years past, because we've gotten to know each other just a little bit more each and every day. So how do we do this? Well, first, let's take a little break here, and we're going to go through a quick scavenger hunt, just 3 items. And I do actually want you to bring these items to the camera. And Sophia, if you can help me moderate and look on camera to see these people, if they brought these items. I do have some swag to send to you. So the winner of the scavenger hunt will get some stickers mailed to them. And if they'll DM me their address privately. All right, so, okay, item number 1, a photo of someone you love. Okay. Item number 2, a right shoe. And item number 3, sticky notes. And go. Right, Hugh, who's first? Oh, is that Carolee?
I saw Victoria.
Victoria.
She had all 3, bam. Like right
okay. Victoria, please DM me your address so I can send you some swag.
That was super fast. I'm impressed.
Good job. Sorry, Carolee, my history frog. All right. Our next section, called Don't Quit Playing Games. Right. All the games that you once liked to play in the classroom, or that your students liked to play in the classroom, they still want to play them. I actually did a survey with my students just last week about what they want to do in class. And a bunch of them said they want to play Kahoot. And these weren't my 7th graders, these were my juniors, my 11th graders. They wanted to play Kahoot. And so I thought, okay, well, I can do that. We hadn't played Kahoot yet. We've been playing on Quizlet. We've been doing things on Padlet. We've been, having some casual discussion in class, but we hadn't played Kahoot. So I did that just yesterday for them, and they had a great time. It was just a true false quiz on Columbus, and they had a great time. But my suggestion is to rotate between the platforms, the gaming platforms like Kahoot and Quizzes, so that they don't get bored. Okay, so that we keep things a little bit fresh. And these things don't need to be content related. I had a friend in the first week do a Kahoot on herself, and the kids had to guess a bunch of her favorite things, or some things about her, like what school she went to, or her favorite color and her favorite food. You can gamify participation with random name pickers like Wheel of Names, class tools. The Google Classroom app on your phone actually does have a random name picker. So if you're a multi-device person like I am, you can use that. I actually do like Wheel of Names though. That one's my favorite just because it's customizable and you can save your student lists. And my favorite thing about it is actually after you spin it, the name pops on the screen and then confetti shoots out on the screen and there's applause. And I think that's the greatest thing, that like when I see the kids kind of smirk at that, they think they're too cool for it, but they're really not. And they have a great time. And just like how I did a 3-item scavenger hunt with you guys. You can do a scavenger hunt with your students to break up monotony of the class. And so what I did, I just Googled virtual scavenger hunt because again, I'm not a creative person. And I was like, well, what do people look for in a scavenger hunt? So I just Googled it and this website came up for kids to play on Zoom. And so it gave me a list of different things. So I just picked 3 different things for you guys. You can come up with 3 different things for your own. You can come up with 10 different things if you want to take up more time. It's up to you. All right, let's head into the chat. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Any questions in the chat, Sophia?
No, we've actually been chatting back and forth a little bit here and there, but no questions. Now would be a great time though, if there were any questions or if they needed any particular links that they weren't able to get on. Maybe not.
All right, let's keep going. All right, so I'm going to share with you an activity. Once I share my screen again.
Oh, great question. This is a great question. I think we're all struggling with it. What does your schedule look like? I find it hard to find time to do everything.
So my schedule is a 70-minute block. We have 70 minutes and I see my students twice a week. I also find it hard to do everything, to be honest. 70 minutes, even though that's what, 20 minutes more than what I originally had with them, it's only twice a week. And one of the things that's really hard is the fact that the kids' internet is all over the place. The kids have slower internet than I do. And so I'm doing a lot of waiting. So while some students and myself, we're doing a lot of waiting, I actually do give them something to do. Again, something low risk, high reward, but something I don't have to grade. So things like Quizlet are a lifesaver because I can say, okay, let's play a live game of Quizlet while we're waiting for this particular website to load. Another thing I do is I have them turn off their cameras, and I know that's kind of a no-no with some districts, even my own. They want us to have the cameras on, but that slows down their internet. We use Google Meet, and for whatever reason, that's not as good as Zoom, and so they have a hard time getting back on. So when I break up the lesson, I do an attendance activity, is what I call it. It's the attendance question, like a this or that. They can do it in the chat, and then that's how I take attendance. I'm looking at the list of students that are in the Google Meet, and then I'm checking my Aries attendance at the same time, and they're going back and forth with the this or that. Sometimes I'll do that in Pear Deck because then it keeps a better record for me of who was in the session in case I missed somebody or somebody was absent. And then from there, I do direct instruction. We do a quick lesson. I try and keep it a 10-minute lesson, but what's 10 minutes online is like 4 times that in real life now in distance learning, I'm finding. So the direct instruction has been extended, which I hate, because what was supposed to be 10 minutes originally is now 40. And then after my direct instruction, we do independent work. So I have them turn off their cameras once again, and they do that for about 10 minutes. Usually it's independent work / homework. So I've given them the instructions for their assignment, and I send them off camera, that is, to begin the assignment, and I'm still on camera. And I say, I'm still here, just, get to work. If you have any questions, you can type it in the chat or unmute. And then after that, I always have an exit ticket. I used to be super sporadic with exit tickets because, when you're in person, that they're there, if they're engaged or not, if they've gotten started, you've walked around and monitored and checked for understanding, but you can't do that in distance learning. So I always have an exit ticket to 1, check for understanding, and 2, also because it's an accountability piece for students to make sure that they've stayed in the meet. And so that's how I break up my learning day, my synchronous time: attendance activity, direct instruction, independent work, exit ticket, and that's it. All right, so back to our presentation. How are we doing on time, Sophia?
We actually have about 30 minutes.
Awesome. All right, so history of me in 3 objects. This was kind of a multi thing for me. Like it covered a lot of different things for me. So 1, it allowed me to get to know my students. 2, it built some historical analysis skills. And 3, it got them speaking. And that's one thing that I really am trying to incorporate more, because they don't get to talk. Like in distance learning, they don't get to talk. I'm the one talking all the time. And so I'm trying to build in more opportunities for my students to talk, and most especially in the spring. I'm sure that in a lot of their classes, they didn't practice their speaking skills because it was asynchronous and they were away from their teachers. They were away from their classmates. And so with history of me in 3 objects, I had them do a Flipgrid. I gave them the prompt. I gave them a link to the directions on a slide. And I also gave them the prompt typed out on the Flipgrid as a whole, so that they can do their assignment. I gave them a 10-minute max. I know that's a maximum on Flipgrid, but I also gave them a model. So in my video, I share 3. The first model I gave them was live. And the first model I gave them was actually this coaster. I'm gonna do this. You guys see the coaster on your screen? Or is it still the screen? All right.
You're still sharing.
I'm still sharing. Okay.
There you go.
All right. There you go. So I shared with them this coaster because I bought it in Palm Springs at a Q conference, or not at the Q conference, but during a Q conference, spring Q, and it was probably the best Q that I'd ever gone to because one of my other favorite musical groups was in town that day, or that weekend, Duran Duran. And I stayed in the same hotel with them. So I shared with them this object as an artifact for my life. And I shared with them that story and how awesome it was and what a great time I had with my teacher friends, staying at the same hotel as my favorite band and seeing them in concert. It was just a souvenir that I bought. I actually bought it before the concert. And the reason why I bought it was because it's a great example of art in the Palm Springs area. It's like that pop culture type 1960s, mid-century modern type of art. And it's also the Capitol Records building, which is where Duran Duran has their star on the Walk of Fame. So I shared with them that. I shared with them a souvenir from a vacation, which lots of people have, right? So, you know, something not too crazy. To give them an example, in the model on Flipgrid, I shared with them a lot of other, or 3 other objects that have a lot more meaning to me. For example, my college diploma from UC Irvine. And I told them that the reason why I'm sharing this is part of me as a history, it's not because it's my college diploma, but for me, it represents overcoming a challenge. And I told them about how I almost failed out of UCI, that I was on academic probation for 2 quarters. I was on the verge of getting kicked out, and that I, you know, buckled down. I learned from my mistakes and eventually graduated. And I only graduated in four years and a quarter. So that was overcoming a huge challenge for me. Some people, they don't want to get that personal. Some people might want to be a little bit more. So our next section is called Show 'em What You're Made of. And let me share my screen again, because I forgot to do that. Okay, it's called Show 'em What You're Made of because as a teacher, we want our students to feel open and comfortable with us. But if we're closed off as a teacher, they're not going to want to be open and comfortable with us. So we have to be vulnerable as well.
So Erica, are you saying embrace your inner nerd, whatever that love is?
Yes, embrace your inner nerd. So show them that you love Nick Carter of the Backstreet Boys. Show them that you love Lance Bass of NSYNC. Show them that you're a huge Beyonce fan. Share with them your trials and tribulations as a teacher, as a person. And you can use Flipgrid for that, like I did with History of Me in 3 objects. You can create a school or class-friendly social media account and allow students and parents to follow you. I created my teacher Instagram account, again, maybe around 7, 8 years ago. And at the time, I only had a few images on there, a few pictures on there, and they were of my classroom. So if you actually follow me, you can scroll all the way down, all the way back to when I first started. And it was like, you know, here's the agenda and here's, you know, some student work. And I didn't know what to use it for. I just knew that I wanted a teacher Instagram. And then one student asked me one time, Miss Aguire, are you on Instagram? And I said, yes, I am. And he asked me, oh, is it okay if I follow you? And I said, because it was school related, I said, yeah, go ahead. And he's like, oh, well, wait, what do you post? And I'm like, what do you mean, what do I post? And he's like, well, if you're just gonna post like homework and stuff, I don't really want to follow you. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay. So then that made me think, like, well, what does my student want to see? And I realized he wanted to see me. He wanted to see who I am, because that's what social media is. It gives people a glimpse of what you are as a person. So then I started posting things that I do on the weekend, like if I went to a restaurant or if I hung out with my family. Again, you know, student and school friendly. But when I started doing that, more students started to follow me, and they started asking me about myself and they started finding commonalities with me, like, oh, you went to see that movie? I did too. It was so good. What did you think? And so we would have these conversations before and after class, or even during class, during independent work. And it helps them to understand that you're a person too. You're not just this figure at the podium. Share stories about when you were younger. I actually shared a couple of stories about when I was young and had gone to New York. And this was because we were talking about 9/11. So I shared with them where I was during 9/11, and I was in college, and how it was so early in the morning, and I was shocked. But that's some bringing in some history, because I teach history, so I was teaching them some content about how firsthand experiences. Again, talk about your family, Eureka, and your dog. I love my dog. My students know I love my dog. I actually got a stamper with my dog's face on it to stamp my students' work, and it says, "Indy is proud of you," and they love it. So I ended up making a digital sticker of my dog, and I plan to use that for my students' work. Indy is proud of you.
Great question. Henry said, there's a fine line, and I get what he's saying. There's a fine line about keeping things professional. Like, how do you handle that relationship and that boundary with students?
I actually have not had any problems. I think it's because understanding of what's appropriate to share on the social media account and what's not appropriate to share. So obviously, if I'm going to share what's going on my weekend, it's I'm going to censor myself if I'm going to a party with adults or there's adult beverages around. I'm definitely not going to have any of that in my photograph. I'll have a photograph of me and maybe my boyfriend, and with a nice background, or a photograph of me and my dog at the park. So you need to know that you need to censor yourself as to what you're sharing about.
Right, and I think that's what there's a little bit of a chat if you want to check that as well. Henry was saying, like, there's some mandates that any type of interaction is looked down upon. And then Jerry said, afraid of being backlash like parent. I totally agree. And I think for me, that's why my love is food. I mean, honestly, who can fault food? So for me, and that is a love, like I love eating all cultural foods. And for me, it's also a bond. So even like to class day, it's like, hey, bring your favorite snacks or bring your favorite food. And then if our interaction is about food or something that's, considered a safe topic, I feel comfortable with that. I know Erica was saying like she posts pictures about her dog. Like I also think that's a safe topic, or places that she travels. So I think we bear in mind whatever you would normally bring into the classroom, that's what we're talking about in your social media and what you share with your students. It would be the same. So something that you would feel comfortable sharing at back to school night with your parents, just to make sure that you are safe and that you don't get any backlash. Great idea.
And currently, you want to kind of look at your own school district. My school district, they have social media. Like they are on Instagram, they are on Twitter, they are on Facebook. They are posting things for families and the public to see. So if your district is social media friendly, then you can take a step in that direction with them. So whatever they're posting, you can post too. I had a principal who, in the past was huge, like really big into Facebook. So they, he posted a lot, pictures of the kids at dances on the school's Facebook that parents could follow. And the parents were really into it because they liked seeing their kids at school. So I see Victoria saying that she doesn't add any kids. I too don't add kids. So I'll allow them to follow me. And then, again, like she said, safe topics that you're comfortable with them chatting about. And then, you know, again, I don't follow them. I tell them like, you can follow me, but I'm not going to follow you. I'm not going to increase your follower count because, you know, if that's what you think. And I'm also, you know, I don't want to spy on them. So, you know, if they want to follow me, I'm okay with that, but I make it a rule for myself that I don't follow my students. All right, so we good? You're welcome, Henry. Okay. All right, so this section is now called the call. And so you can see here, there's like some stationary bits, photographs. If you click the link, it'll take you to an Amazon page where you can find these things. And I'll tell you more about them in a moment. Okay, but the call is about sharing positivity, which the song is not about, by the way. It's not about sharing positivity. The song is about cheating on your girlfriend. But that aside, the call is about, the call is about sharing positivity. Positive calls home, those go a long way. Speak to parents and speak to students. When you call home, I've called home and I've asked to speak to parents first. And just to say hi, just to introduce myself, to talk about the great thing that their kid did in discussion in class. During distance learning, again, speak to the parent first and then ask if you can speak to the student, just to say hi. Positive emails, write to parents and write to students. Don't just send it to the parent, send it to the student if they have emails. You can message students using Remind, Class Dojo, Class Tag. There's a whole lot of different ways to message students and families through these apps, and there's no personal information exchanged. But my favorite way to send some positivity the students' way is through snail mail. Last spring, I wrote out 140 plus cards to my students, and I tried to make sure that every student got one. So I had, you know, a checklist of students, and on the card, I would write down something about them. And it wasn't just about academics. It was about how they were or their personality. And I would also send them stickers, and they loved it. They would email me saying that they got their card and how they were so grateful and they really liked the stickers that I picked for them, because I would actually pick the stickers for them. I wouldn't just like randomize the stickers. And they loved it. Again, you know, things with like personal information. I use the school address as my return address. And so I actually did get letters back, and these are 3 of them that I got back that they mailed to me at the school. My assistant principal, she would text me every time I got a letter. She said, Erica, you got a letter, and it was from so-and-so. It says it's from so-and-so. And she was shocked the first time I got one. And so because I was at home and she was in the office, she was like, what do you want me to do with it? And I said, oh, go ahead and open it, because I'm sure it's appropriate, because what I wrote to the student was obviously appropriate, because it was in writing, and you know, it could get into the hands of it probably did get in the hands of a parent. So I asked her to open it for me, and she took a picture of the contents and sent it to me via text. So snail mail is my favorite thing, because how many of you guys pay your bills online? You know, like, we don't get mail very often, and when we do, it's actually a bill or junk mail, right? And for me, it's kind of like, why do I even get the mail? Like, why do I, you know, I know my bill's coming because I got an alert on my phone, I got an email. So when a student gets snail mail, it may very well be their first piece of mail ever. And, you know, save USPS. So snail mail is my favorite thing to give to students, right? So again, I gave you a link of some of the things that I used. Just blank note cards. Some people send postcards because it's cheaper. The reason why I got notes cards, because it came with an envelope and I wanted them to have stickers. So packs of stickers that I sent this fall. I bought Hamilton stickers, which I'm super excited about. So I know that I got some Hamil fans in my classes, and I'm excited to send them those stickers. These are some generic stickers, and then Baby Yoda, and what else we got here? Some travel stickers. So my world history class, they get some travel stickers. Send them something. They don't cost a whole lot, and it's fun. Some of the stickers, though, you have to be aware. Even though it says for kids, they're not always for kids. And one of them, a couple of them had, what was it? Bender from Futurama, and it had some writing in Russian. So when I did a Google Translate on it, it had something about like, it had something very inappropriate. So I make sure you sift through the stickers to make sure that they're appropriate to send. Okay, our last section is called All I Have to Give. This is my favorite Backstreet Boys song, by the way, and it's because Nick Carter sang to me at a concert. So that's my favorite song. Right, so all I have to give is just a bunch of other extra tips. Foster collaboration. I know it's hard. I've been trying to figure out a way to foster collaboration myself. We're a Google district, or a G Suite district, so we're using Google Meet. We don't have breakout rooms yet, and the kids are dying to go into breakout rooms. I know that some of their teachers are using Zoom, even though the district fully supports Google Meet, and they didn't say not to use Zoom, but I'm still kind of like on the fence with that. And they're also wary about like leaving the kids in the Zoom quote unquote by themselves, but that's to your discretion. But you can foster collaboration in a lot of other different ways, but I'm just trying to find a way to get them to connect more face to face, and to hear their voice so that they can hear each other's voices. They want to connect. They're dying to do that. Daily, weekly check-ins. I did a check-in form during distance learning in the spring. And these forms were going all over the place. They were all over Twitter and Instagram. And I thought, okay, I'll use it. But then I thought, why am I doing this? Because I'm all about functionality. I don't want to do something just to do something. So the weekly form did tell me, information about the student, how they were doing. But I also used it for counseling purposes. So, at the time, the students were open with me if they were struggling with something. Or if they would let me know if they needed a check-in. And some actually did tell me that they were in a dark place. So I would email them. If they didn't reply back, I would call. And then I'd assess from there. If I knew that they were kind of on the radar already with counseling, because we did have kind of a lookout list of students, I would contact the counselor and let them know. So it was very purposeful. And then there was a section that was optional for them, is anything else you would like to share. Some of them just wrote fun messages. Some of them shared with me jokes. So it served a good purpose. This year, I'm actually not using the check-in form. Instead, I'm doing a whole lot of stuff on Pear Deck. And, you know, I'm lucky that my district is supporting us with Pear Deck, the Pear Deck Premium. And the reason why I'm using Pear Deck is because it's all in one spot, and I'm really trying to minimize a lot of tech tools, actually, you know, kind of clear some things out, because it's hard for me to grade or hard for me to check on all of these different platforms. So that's what I'm doing. We have office hours in my district, or we have what's called the support block. It's at the end of the school day. Teachers have to be in a Google Meet from 2 to 2:30. So what I did was, because nobody wants to come into my support block. Nobody, quote unquote, needs help in their history class. However, I talked to my colleagues who are English teachers and math teachers, and they've got students in there every day. So I decided that I would make my students come to my support block. So I set up some appointment slots, and I said, you get to pick what day to come in, and it's going to be one time this quarter. And what we're going to do there is we're just going to check in with each other to see how we're doing. And so I had them sign up, and our first appointment is going to be Monday, actually. And I have a group of 4 students. So I said, there's going to be 4 of you in there with me, and we're just going to chat. And so I think that kind of gives them a bigger comfort level, because it's not one-on-one. And they also, because I had them sign up and they got to see who else was going to be there. So it's like, okay, they have a buddy to go with. Be the example. You want your students to feel supported. You want your students to feel comfortable. Well, you have to express that and show that yourself. They're not going to do that unless you do it yourself. Of course, you know, don't take yourself too seriously. I teach middle school, so we're all a little bit crazy if we teach middle school, right? But don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, you know, my presentation today was Backstreet Boys themed, and I would totally even do that with my students if you know, if the mood was right. But yeah, have fun with your students, and they'll have fun with you. Okay, and just want to thank you guys for coming and joining me today. We're how much time we got, Sophia?
You have about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Wow, I timed that really good. But thank you all for coming, and thank you for joining me here. You guys are all larger than life. Get it? Yeah? All right. Okay, if you have any questions, I'm around here for about 5-10 more minutes.
Thank you. Your theme was so cute.
Thank you. Oh, Victoria, send me your address.
Okay, I will. Oh, did you put your Twitter like in the
Yes, I
slide?
did.
Okay. All right, I'll send it there.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thanks, Carolee. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Seriously, you're like rescuing my life. I love your idea.
You rescued my life. I love all of your stuff, and I'm like, I'm totally going to use more Wakelet this year.
ADD.
And I used it, you know, with my juniors last year with the civil rights movement, and they really liked it. So.
What grades do you teach?
7th and 11th.
So you're at a middle high school?
No.
You go to 2 schools?
I do 2 schools. This is my 2nd year doing that. It's a lot easier now that I don't have to drive.
I'm gonna stop our recording.
Thanks, Sophia.
Good idea.